The biggest mistakes parents make at every age from 8 to 18. Real stories from a coach that has lived it as an athlete, as a coach, and most importantly, as a parent over the last 38 years. Hey everybody, Coach Beede here. And for 38 years, I have worked with thousands of athletes and thousands of families. And I can boil every regret that parents have had down to about 6 big mistakes that parents make at each and every stage when they're going through the youth sports process. Generally, at the very early ages of, say, 6 through 10, we seek out highly competitive competition. We try to get the best equipment. We try to put ourselves, our student athletes in lessons and trying to create an atmosphere that we think is helping our student athletes when in reality, we're hurting our student athletes. Because what we're doing at the youngest ages of 6 through 10 is we're taking away fun and we're implementing organized structure. And that's not how children learn at ages 6 through 10. Without the foundation of passion and grit, they're not going to want to learn, no matter how much we want it for them as parents. So make sure that you as parents simply provide an environment and you really engage with your children from a positive perspective between those ages of 6 through 10, because that's where the foundation and the passion for sports truly begin. Watch games with your children. Go to practices locally, whether that's high school or college or even minor or professional, Major League Baseball. Make sure you're keeping sports fun and it's more of an activity and a playing environment than a scripted environment and an overly organized environment. As the children begin to get to the ages of, say, 10 through 12, and you as parents begin to start to think money over opportunity, that's where things can really lead to burnout. You don't need to seek out travel organizations. In fact, my children never played travel baseball until the ages of 15. The ages of 10 through 12 are when our children are going through growth spurts, both physically and mentally. They're looking at in some cases, athletes are growing, getting bigger. They might have facial hair. They're stronger, they're faster. These ages of 10 through 12, it's not about keeping up with the boy across the street or the boy in the next town over that's really super talented. In fact, the ages of 10 through 12, it's the ages and stages of growth. And this is where most student athletes begin to have that desire to get better. And that can be done internally, locally, at home, at a playground, at school. And this is not something that requires dollars in order to learn a sport. You don't need to pay for expensive lessons. You don't need to pay for expensive travel tournaments and hotels and food. You don't need to go for 3-hour, car rides to go play, 3 games in one day. That is not helping the ages of 10 through 12. And the other part of that is I want you to understand the ages of 10 through 12 are really the final years where kids can be kids. They're not really thinking of all of the social dynamics of junior high school and high school. They're still kids. They're still trying to have fun, and they're still playing within their peer group. You do not need to worry about travel athletics between the ages of 10 and 12. Your student athlete is not missing out on any kind of development. It doesn't matter how competitive their teams are. It's not going to play a role with regard to varsity baseball at the high school level, and more importantly, it will have nothing to do with college recruiting. The ages of 13 to 14, these are the ages where the foundation needs to begin, particularly with regard to nutrition, sleep habits, and most importantly, a strength routine. And this is where you want the opportunity to have a certified trainer, a kinesiologist, a PT, someone that can identify potential areas of weakness for your student athlete at the ages of 13 and 14. It's important for them to learn about their bodies and more importantly, how their bodies grow, meaning from a nutrition standpoint, a sleep perspective, and through workouts. It can be as simple as body weight exercises, it can be strength exercises, which can be very intimidating for student athletes that are 13 through 14, because as they look around the room, whether they're in the 8th or 9th grade, you look at a senior in high school or a junior in high school, their bodies look much different. As it pertains to a student athlete, the critical years, 13 and 14, are when your student athlete will begin to understand that strength, speed, size, skill are going to matter when they want it to matter most, which for the vast majority of student athletes is at the high school varsity level. I can tell you a great story of a young man between the ages of 15 and 16 who went into high school, and prior to being a sophomore at that age of 15 or 16, had never made an all-star team, had never been selected to play on a higher level team. In fact, that student athlete was cut several times between the ages of 8 through 15. And that athlete was me. And when I went through that, I had a dad who never played sports. In fact, he was not an athlete in any capacity. And he used to say to me, you have two options at this point. You can either A, choose another sport, or B, work harder and get better. For the vast majority of freshmen and sophomores at that 15 and 16-year-old year, it is important to understand, if it is to be, it is up to me. You need to make sure that your student athlete is not relying on anyone else to get stronger, to get faster, to get better skill-wise. They are capable to take it and put it into their own hands. Make sure that your student athlete understands it's not who they are today as a student athlete, it's who they're striving to become, which is the best version of themselves as a junior, senior in high school, and obviously for some at the freshman, sophomore years in college. Make sure you're not spending hard-earned money or giving away time chasing travel ball accolades or validations with rankings, and instead you could be staying at home working on skill set development, or most importantly, size, strength, and skill. Lastly, those ages of 17 and 18, the junior and senior years in high school, this is for most the fork in the road. This is where student athletes begin to identify either I do have the skill and I do have the desire and I want to go with every fiber of my being to become a college student athlete, or it's too much for me and it's simply something that's not a priority. This is going to be the two most critical years for your student athlete. The junior and senior years, if you've built the foundation at 13 and 14, can become the separation that your student athlete needs, not only for their local high school or their local region with regard to high school athletics, but the potential to compete with student athletes from around the country for those valuable college roster spots. Here is the secret that every college athlete and professional athlete I've ever coached had, and that was a parent who treated every stage that we've discussed during these videos with respect. And they've protected and valued the joy of fun early when the children were very, very young. And they've protected arms and bodies from things that could have hurt with regard to trying to throw too hard, maybe not having proper nutrition. Parents that took the time to internalize their process and not seek outside gurus and gadgets that they think may be the flavor of the week, the month. Trust me when I tell you, if every guru that claimed to have figured out whether a hitting instructor, a pitching instructor, a velocity arm strength instructor, if they were really as good as they think that they are, a major league team or a major Division I college program would hire them and create robots that they could just push out each and every year. Aaron Judge, he's an anomaly. Every athlete that has elite skill has one thing and one thing only that separates them from everybody else. It's a want and a work ethic. And if your student athlete has that and they have a joy and a true passion and a love for a sport, that is what will help push them past their peer group and help them become a college athlete at the Division III, Division II, or even the Division I level. I have put every single blueprint from this entire series, from 8 to 10, all the way up and through 18 into the senior year in high school, all together into one master download that's in a masterclass form that you can find right now at coachbeede.com. You can also, if you want to talk to me directly, I respond to emails, but you can also book an evaluation or a consultation. The only thing that stops you as parents, and more importantly, your student athlete, from getting to the level that they aspire to is a plan. Not my plan, not somebody else's plan, your student athlete's plan. Every single student athlete is an individual fingerprint within the world of college athletics. And you must become the best version that you're capable of becoming. Your student athlete is capable of becoming. Thanks for letting me be a part of your student athlete's journey. Now let's make sure that the next 10 years for your student athlete are the best ones yet.